Carmelita Tropicana was created almost by accident. This was mid-80s in New York City, and Alina Troyano was performing in a play called The Well of Horniness. It's a campy spoof of an old and very serious lesbian novel. Alina was worried that if she was recognized as an out lesbian, it wouldn't be good for her career, so she picked a stage name, Carmelita Tropicana. She says the name came out of her mouth fully formed as if by spontaneous combustion. But also, it is not just a stage name. Carmelita has become a whole persona, a character. And while they do share a lot of biography, they're both born in Cuba, for example, one difference I find fascinating is that Carmelita has always been out of the closet. She's declared herself a lesbian on stage even before Alina was totally comfortable doing the same thing. Over 40 plus years, Alina Troyano, aka Carmelita Tropicana, has become a pillar of the downtown theater scene here in New York City. She's a writer, a performer, a performance artist, and she's here today. So without further ado, I'm Jeffrey Masters, and this is LGBTQ and A.
And who do you want to interview, Carmelita or me?
I think Alina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Is that something you have to ask?
Well, just in case. It took me like 10 years to be able to speak as me.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. No, I consider what you do like a form of drag, and I prefer
It is.
the drag interviewing the drag performer out of drag.
Right.
Like
Okay.
with makeup off.
Yes. Okay.
But of course she's here.
Yes.
But I mean, speaking of, I think we should dive in.
Okay.
So I want to go back to like the moment that Carmelita was created, was born. I know you were performing in The Well of Horniness
Yes.
by Holly Hughes.
Yes.
That's a play that spoofs the early novel The Well of Loneliness.
Exactly.
And so how did Carmelita come out of that?
Well, there were two things happening simultaneously. It was Holly having me in the show. So, I was one of the actors, and I was always the one who screamed. I was the best screamer, so I'm the one who screams after The Well of Horniness. But at the same time, this other, stand-up comedian was giving a class in stand-up comedy at WOW. WOW is Women's One World. It started out as a festival, and then they turned it into a salon, which then turned into a theater. So WOW Theater had a lot of people, had me as one of the people, but I'd never written anything. And I was in a room when all of a sudden this woman who's a stand-up comedian was giving a class, and I happened to be in the room, and they said, "Oh, come on, you can do it." And then I was too shy. I said, "No, I can't stand in front of of people and just talk about myself. I mean, who's going to want to even know that my father was a revolutionary who fought in Castro's revolution? Nobody's going to be interested in that." So I thought, no, just maybe if I make up a character. My teacher said, "Yes, that's perfect. Make up a character, and that'll be it." And so at the same time that I was doing the stand-up, I had to do Holly's show live on radio. So they just said, "Okay, people, we're gonna, slate, and you have to say your name." And I go, "Oh God," and said, "Well, if you want a new name, just say it." And the first name that came to me was Carmelita Tropicana, and that was it. So it was very spontaneous combustion that happened to evolve from.
And so you were not out like professionally, but were you out personally?
No, Carmelita came out. Carmelita
came out before Alina came out.
Absolutely.
Oh, fascinating.
Absolutely. She came out, she was born out. She didn't even have to come out. She was born out.
And so Alina got to like practice in cosplay being out.
Yeah.
I feel like it sounds so dumb talking in third person,
No.
sorry. But like when did Alina feel comfortable kind of declaring like, also I'm a lesbian?
Well, if I was in a professional situation, they would know because I was Alina and I was Carmelita, so that was clear.
Yeah.
Even, NYU had like the first conference that I attended to, and it was, I would say things like, "Oh, I'm I'm Carmelita Tropicana, and I went to WoW looking for lesbians, and I found thespians, lesbian thespians. And so it became sort of a joke, but I was out professionally, and in terms of my family, my sister knew, my cousins knew, and all that. But because I'm a good girl, my mother and my grandmother didn't quite know, and
Yeah.
then I came out to my mother.
Yeah.
So.
You've been very clear also all along that Carmelita is like a collaborative project
Yes, yeah,
amongst other people. Can you talk about what others have brought to her and how they shaped her?
yes. In the very beginning, okay, so I had the name and I had to perform and I was about to go on stage, but I didn't. I'm one of those people that really responds to the outer, to costumes and, things that make me feel more the character.
Yeah.
And then you also think of the inner, but, a lot of times as Carmelita, it's like, just give me a costume and I can perform. I'll be great if I have a costume. But I didn't have that, and I didn't have a concept of that at all. And when I told Ella Troyano, who's my sister, who's a filmmaker and my longtime collaborator, and Uzi Parnes, who's also filmmaker and director, and also my longtime collaborator, they're really visual, and they said, "Oh God, we got an outfit for you." So they came up with the outfit, and the outfit sort of really fit me and made me. And the first one had a lot of flowers, and it was great for the character. And then came the fruits. The fruits were problematic at the time because in the 80s, this is hard for people to imagine now, but in the 80s, if you wore fruit and you were like décolletage and you were like, "Hello, how are you doing?" People thought, "Oh, she's a coochie coochie mama." And that's the Latin Spitfire, and that's about it. So there was a lot of, I got a lot of commentary. And even in a show that I did early on, this guy came to me, I was doing emceeing, and he said, "You're the most racist, you know, sexist, performer I've ever seen." But it was interesting that that had such a powerful statement. Back then, the fruits were Chiquita banana, were like banana, think of all the Banana Republic, that, I'm going bananas, all those kinds of things. But you can use that just like, like anything and appropriate it and then
Yeah.
play with it. So if you just saw the fruit, I mean, I had somebody who wanted to sleep with me and was really a little, like she said after we had done it, she goes, "Well, you know what? I was a little afraid because I've never seen you perform, but the whole thing with the fruits." And then she saw something that I did and said, "Oh my God, I understand totally now. I totally get it."
Because these are stereotypes, the first, but you're also
Yes,
spoofing that.
exactly. It's to go beyond the stereotype, but they just took it. People take things also at face value. And when you take things at face value, then it's like, this is what you are. And they put you in a box.
With your collaborators, you mentioned
But
Ella
Ella and
and
Uzi,
Uzi.
yes.
I know at one point they were married. Did Carmelita?
Not
No, they were
married.
not.
No, they never got married. Uzi's only married other people. My sister's not the marrying kind. I
Okay,
shouldn't speak for her,
so
but
Uzi's a liar.
she's
No, because I know Uzi as I told you, but for the
yeah.
audience, I know Uzi loosely, and he described Ella as his first wife. That it was. I guess that's just like kind of
It's a yes,
colloquially.
a colloquial, it was, I mean,
Yeah.
yes, but not
Okay.
not through the ceremony, not any of that. But we, actually came up with plays that we did together,
Yeah.
and we wrote, and it was a collaboration that was more fluid and more
Yeah.
transparent. And they also did a lot of the visuals. We put in a lot of like film
Yeah.
in the pieces, so that also, was part of the plays that were very much spectacles.
Yeah, I guess what I was wondering is, like their like a relationship status aside, I was wondering like did it feel like Carmelita was like a family project in a way?
Well, sometimes yeah, I guess I never thought about it, but yes, in a way, yeah, because we all worked together, and it was very much that. Even when I won uh, what was it, at the Copacabana, in the 80s, there was a um, a talent show. And it was Ella and Uzi who put me into the talent show. They said, "Oh, no, no, you have to be in the talent show." And it's like, "Oh my god," and it was great. It was just really great because they dressed me up again and they're very inventive. Also with the looks of things, of, outfits that you can make. It was the 80s was very resourceful. Whatever it was that you had, you sort of played with it, glitterized it, or, put fruits on it. I had one of the things that happened is like I had a fire in my apartment and everything burnt down. And I had, like that same week, I had to go to Philadelphia because there was a person that I knew who was doing a kind of like a pilot TV show interview. And I said, "Well, everything is burnt. I mean, look at my bustier." And the bustier had fruit. No, no, it didn't have fruit. It was just sequins, and it was all burnt. The breast side was totally burnt. And Ella goes, "Oh, don't worry about it here. We'll do," and they just put fruit, 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 then added glitter. The only thing was that when I went to Philadelphia, and they came with me and we went into the studio, the woman goes, "Oh, that's beautiful. What is that barbecue smell?" So,
And if correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that you originally did not start to see this as performance art until you got a grant for that from your sister.
yes, it's a tongue in cheek, but yes, it's tongue in cheek and real. Both things can exist at the same time. I mean, I wasn't as familiar with performance art. Some of it I was, some of it I was not. Because I'd seen a lot of experimental theater and a lot of experimental
It's
things that were
easy
going
to make
on.
fun of.
But I did see Jack Smith, and once I saw Jack Smith because my sister said, "You gotta go see Jack Smith. He's really amazing. He's really amazing." I was like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure I want to." And I went, and I was like really blown away by his performance because I'd never seen anybody do something so kind of bizarre,
Yeah.
setting up a fire, dancing. He poured gasoline in the middle of a concrete floor and then set it on fire, and it was like, what the hell is that? And then he, went to one side and he actually put the fire out with a plunger, a toilet plunger. And I thought, I just don't know what I've just seen. This man is either crazy or he's absolutely brilliant. It was that
Yeah.
kind of like a performance that you have to unpack.
And for the audience, Jack Smith is considered the grandfather of performance art in the US.
Exactly, exactly, yeah. And so when I saw that, it was like, "Oh my god, this is just absolutely amazing." So I wrote even a performance art manifesto that really is a kind of homage to Jack Smith
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
talk about that,
What did you learn from him that you like applied to your art?
that surprise is a very important element for me to have in performance and also in, plays. And in terms of performance, when you're dealing a lot with the audience, mistakes can be great things because how you recover, how you, embrace those mistakes is really great. And you're in the moment. So performance art has a real, a real sense of like that's the audience and you're dealing with them, at least the kind that I do. It's really very it takes into account the audience all the time. Whereas with plays, you're a little bit more removed. It's not like, you may break the fourth wall. You don't. You're carrying on what's going on stage rather than, dealing with the audience.
Yeah, and your work, you're always aware of the audience. They're always present at
Yeah.
all times.
Yeah. Yes, I have the sense of, what are they going to see? What are they going to like? What are they going But then you can't just rely on them because, I mean, then you're not concentrating on what you're doing. So you have to concentrate on what you're doing, and you're hoping that they're coming with you.
You wrote in that manifesto, performance art changes the way you look at the world. Your perceptions are changed. An object is no longer what it seems. So how did it change how you like look at the world?
Well, think of like think of, the object that is a toilet plunger. It's such a disgusting kind of, object and what we think of it. And Jack used it as a dance. he used it to dance. And so we're elevating something that is mundane, that it's trite, that can be dirty, can be disgusting, that's trash, into an objet d'art, So here he is changing into something else. So if you can transform, objects, I mean, I really love using objects. I really love, costumes too, because it's sculptural, a lot of them that I've used that people have made for me. That, may not be, because I'm really very much into animals, the species, and have done a lot of like sci-fi, but not in a clear, realistic way, more fun, more abstract. It really depends on the piece, but it's not gonna be, "Oh, I'm going to be a real dog," or I'm gonna be a real cockroach. No, it has, elements of it, that make it something, but not, um, uh, so so realistic a
Yeah.
presentation. Sometimes they don't even know what it is. They know it's animal something because you got fur, but no clue what it is. And you
Yeah.
have to explain, which I love, because then I can go into an explanation of like, oh, it's a hyena. I'm a hyena. You see these long threads? Well, that's my, my vagina. It's really big, you know. So so things, can be different, and you're looking at it through a different lens.
Yeah, I feel like performance art gets a bad rap. It's like when we read Shakespeare in ninth grade and you hear like 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds reading horrible Shakespeare and
Yeah.
you say, I hate Shakespeare. Same thing with performance art where you've seen one person do something dumb and you think, oh, performance art is dumb.
Yeah.
And so like what isn't what isn't good performance art?
It's something that makes you think. Something that really, makes you question things, something that's delights you, that you're seeing, that gives you pleasure. There's so many ways of looking or something that confronts you and makes you, uncomfortable. There are people who cut themselves, who do all kinds of things to their bodies, which I'm fine with, it's a very different type of performance art. Even Marina Abramovich has done things to her body, and, that's okay. Yoko Ono, I love some of her pieces, but, she, the cut pieces, she places herself, in the middle of a room, and then people go with scissors and cut, pieces of her outfit. I mean, that was really very daring and very different. I mean, that's not the kind that I do, but I really applaud it, and I think that's really good performance art too. I mean, they can be very many things, and they can be humorous, have a playful attitude to it. So,
It seems like things really started to click for you when you started making more autobiographical work. Is that fair to say?
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Well, it almost, almost always I kind of dealt with autobiography without even saying it's autobiography because it's a high pitch. Like Carmelita is on a 10, Alina is on a 5, but it's the same material, but I'm just using it in a 10. So even if you see a movie that my sister made, my sister's movie, Ella's movie that's called Your Kunst is Your Waffen, Your Art is Your Weapon, it's compacted, but a lot of the things that happen in that movie did happen. We did go, we weren't put in jail, but we did go defend an abortion clinic. And when we made that film in '93, we thought, oh, this is going to be so dated. By the time we do it, that's not going to be, it's going to be dated. But, why not? It's
Yeah,
something that we're going through now. Have a record of what that time is like. Time now.
right.
Time is now.
With one of your shows, Leche de Amnesia, The
Yes.
Milk of Amnesia,
Yeah.
you return to Cuba and all these memories resurface.
Right.
The other character in Milk of Amnesia, and he pops up in many of your work,
Yeah.
is Pingalito.
Yes.
For just for the audience, he often holds a cigar. I've
Yes.
seen him grabbing his crotch while he's talking.
Yeah.
Let's play a small clip from him.
Okay.
Bienvenidos, ladies and gentlemen, to the show de jour, Memorias de la Revolución. The personal memoirs of the daughter of the Cuban Revolution, star of stage and screen Carmelita Tropicana. The revolution you will witness here tonight happened in 1955 in Havana, but you don't find yet in the history books. This is why Carmelita calls me Pingalito in Miami to come here tonight to PS 122 to present audiovisual media extravaganza.
I mean, Pingalito is a long-running character, much like Carmelita.
Yes, yes. It's almost like the two of them are, cut from the same. Yes, absolutely. It's almost, you could say that Pingalito is Carmelita's alter ego.
And so talk about what his function is, like this like character with like the machismo.
Well, it's to sort of, talk about what that is in our culture and how he sees things in a very much of a male-centric way. Very much, when he speaks, he's a populist. So this is really interesting because now the word populist has such a bad connotation. But with Pingalito, he wouldn't be he would not be right wing. He would be weirder. I mean, he's really in love with Carmelita, just wants to do everything for her. So he has a really interesting take on Cuba, on giving you the facts of Cuba from a placemat. And he spouts them out as if this is the truth. And then he comments on them. So I think it's a way of him to guide us to a more Cuban culture.
It's just so interesting that you've created like it's serialized your work in a way.
Yeah.
It's like they return to see Carmelita shows and they're seeing all these characters they're familiar with and have seen like throughout like years.
Yeah. Well, there are things that Carmelita is not in. Like when I did something with Marga Gomez called Single Wet Female, Carmelita's not in. There are pieces that that Carmelita's not in.
Were you playing Alina or was that a different character?
No, I was playing a creep. Yeah, I was playing no, because that really, it's very campy and it was a takeoff on single white female. But we went against our types. Marga is more butch than I am and I'm a little bit more femme. So we wanted to switch them. And so I'm the butch who's absolutely in love with Marga. And we are roommates. And there are killings and, but it's a fantasy and it's really over the top. So I play the butch kind of character that has, that's not Alina. And José Muñoz, who has written about my work, who, wrote about, in a way, José put me in the map, in
really?
terms of, because he was somebody who could speak about my work, in academia and sort of contextualize it and make it, something that people wanted to read. And not that it was just funny, stupid, but it had critique, it had commentary.
So his spotlight, and so José Esteban Muñoz, queer theorist,
Yes.
academic, very, very famous, he put a spotlight on you.
Oh, yeah.
So I wrote down, he called you a pioneer in the aesthetics of disidentification. That's a concept that I was not familiar with, that he invented.
Yes, I know. He's very academic. I'm not. I'm into the doing it.
Yes, us bottom feeders over here.
Yeah.
He says disidentification is a survival strategy for marginalized people, often queer people of color, where he says that instead of fully embracing mainstream culture or fully rejecting it, it works with the culture to rework and transform into something more inclusive and embracing of these historically underrepresented identities.
Right. Yeah.
When you read that, did that like automatically ring true for you?
I try not to read too much of theory. I know I should. I love hanging out with Jose.
Yeah.
He was like the most interesting, wonderful. But we had a relationship where we talked a lot, and I read his stuff a little bit after. I'm always a little bit nervous about reading about what the work is because then I think, oh, is that it? And I can't go anywhere else. It's like, or am I, or has will it take the magic away? It doesn't take the magic away.
Are you saying because it draws a box around you?
Yeah.
And this
But you know
is
what?
who I am.
Yes, but you know what? It doesn't.
Yeah.
And even this, this play that I wrote, Chicas 2000, Jose was very instrumental in it, because I wanted to use, I love language because English is not my first language. I love language. I love words because words are not just words, but, they have a lot of different meanings to them, concepts that are cultural, such as chusma, and I wanted to tell people what chusma was. And chusma is kind of like a bottom feeder, white trash. You could use all the things, that we use to sort of put a group down, and also has a lot of class connotations. And I was using that, to say that Latinos have been called chusma, what the chusma was,
Yeah.
and sort of appropriating it.
It must be a very, like, funny experience that you're just out here making art, and then someone is studying you and, like, placing theory on top of you.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but it's hey, it's great. It got me gigs, you know, and he really was an amazing friend. It was somebody who was a colleague, but also a friend. In fact, like, I'm having a new show that's gonna be based on my memoir, and he is in it. Jose is in it as part of, I'm writing a scene with Jose, because he's really influential in my life as a friend, who made me think, see things differently. I mean, the word chusma, I got it for the play because he would call me up and leave on the answering machine. Remember those? He would leave a, hey, chusmita. Hey, it's me. Chusma, little chusma.
How funny that the person studying your work, you also have a relationship with, and so he's giving you language, then he's studying that language that he gave you, like
Yeah.
this circle.
Yeah. So it's all, yes. Well, you feed off each other, especially if there's a real connection. And I think that one time he came in and he really thought about it and said, Carmelita's a really good. She's good. She's sweet. She's really sweet. And then I go, oh my God, is that all I am? Sweet? Is that it? There's nothing else? And so when Marga and I had to do Single Wet Female, I came up with a creep. And the biggest compliment I got was because I said, Jose, how is my character of Cammy, huh? And I would have this crazy laugh. And he goes, oh, it was creepy. Creepy. Yes. You kind of, there's people that you want to, like and to collaborate, Ella, Uzi, there's people that you really want to like your work.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes they don't, but, you're hoping for that. And Jose was always somebody that, I had my ears out. Is he laughing? I mean, he died in 2013, but he's, people don't really, you carry them with you.
I think the queer community too is he's one of those figures that's always being constantly quoted
I
as
know.
well.
He's had such a renaissance. He had so many memorials. It was like the Jose, traveling memorial. Here we go again.
That's so funny. It seems like you like stumbled into performance art like by accident, let's say.
Yeah.
What was like the moment when you realized like I actually want to do this like forever?
I- you know, um, I stumbled into the Wow Cafe, and that was very important. That was the first time that I, actually, when Peggy Shaw saw me, and somebody didn't come for the variety show, she said, Alina, get over here. Get up there. Get up and do something because so and so hasn't come. I'm going like, what? But I can't do anything. And she said, just get up there and do it. And Peggy was like that. And when Peggy tells you that, you kind of do it. So it was that particular moment that I didn't even have Carmelita, but I did do something.
What did you do?
Oh, I had to go home first and find an outfit because I felt so stupid. And Ella and Uzi didn't know that I was performing. I mean, it was just like, not that WoW had so many people either. We're talking about, if 10 people were there, then, that's great. So I went home, I got an outfit, I got a hat, and then the only thing that I knew was I knew a poem by Jose Marti, who is, the Cuban revolutionary. And the only thing that I knew was that by heart, and it's not that I sing well either, but then I sang Guantanamera, which I kind of knew, and people in the audience helped me to sing it. It was sing along. So it was two things that I could do.
So for this story, you had to go home and get a costume.
Yeah.
Similarly with Carmelita, you didn't
Yeah.
feel like there was a costume.
Yeah.
Do you still today, in this moment, like this age and this year, like do you still feel most comfortable like on stage, like when it's like a character and,
Yes.
and not
Oh, yeah.
Alina?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have you done
Yes.
shows as Alina?
Um, I probably well, yes, the last show I did a version of myself, written in collaboration with, Brandon Jacobs Jenkins, who's a MacArthur Genius, a Tony and Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. It was for Soho Rep, and it was called Give Me Carmelita Tropicana. I was Alina throughout it, and I hated it. Oh my god, it was like torture, torture, torture.
What did it
But it's
feel
a
like?
kind of but it's a kind of me because I'm used to Carmelita because that's or somebody else, a horse. Give me a horse, give me a pig, give me a whatever it is because then it's a mask. I feel comfortable if I'm wearing a mask. And if I'm unmasked, then it's like more me. But, again, when I was Alina, it was more of a concept of Alina. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
when you're on stage, it's a little bit different too.
It's heightened.
Exactly. So,
In this play, you talked about off Broadway. Give me Carmelita Tropicana. On stage, there's a debate about whether or not like you should kill Carmelita, like the
right.
character, and you just be Alina. Like I know that's as we said, like heightened and
Yeah.
exaggerated for performance, but how real is that like question?
It's happened to me at times, like when I was doing Carmelita for 10 years, then I thought, well, is that it? It's like, don't I have something else? You do something for a long time, you want to switch. As an artist, you want to find, even if you do the same thing, it has to be somehow a little different.
Yeah.
It's a fresher way of, dealing with all the themes you've always dealt with. So, at some point I'm going like, "Oh my god, maybe I should kill her," and so we played with that idea because it was so heightened. What does it mean to, and in that play it was actually, he was trying to buy the cat, and then it's like, "No, I can use it. I can do it. I can." So it was a whole thing about what does it mean? You created something that's been part of you also and all of a sudden, you're not that anymore.
And so you've been doing Carmelita for over 40 years now.
Yeah.
So what has kept you coming back to her?
I mean, there are levels of heightened and not heightened, and you have to evolve. You have to make her different. And also, again, it's a blend of Carmelita and Alina, what's happening in a lot of ways. So it's a blending of both of them that is part of in the other shows that I've done where I haven't been Carmelita, it's that kind of a situation. But it's a mixture of that. It's as Jose called it, where he wrote something about like, well, Carmelita is a queer assemblage, like all things put together and mixed. So it's an assembly of those different parts of. And, we have different parts of who we are. So I'm just playing with the different facets that a personality can have.
We're talking about your career,
Yeah.
but personally,
Okay. Okay.
I don't want you to give me
Yeah. Yeah.
the last 40, 50 years of summary, but like who is like the great love of your life? Like start there. You look terrified.
Yes, I am. What do you mean, love? Love can take many faces. Right now, my Sphinx cat, Tutankhamun, Tuti, is is a love. I mean, friends have been great loves. In the romantic love, I do have one person that but not happening now. So,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah, well, look, if you've had good memories, that's what you've got. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you've been in love, if you've got good memories, if you've been passionate, that you can hold on to. And life is, there's change. I mean, that's the one thing that is constant change. And I've had really, you know, um, more of a serial monogamist. I haven't tried, well, I did have a little bit of a throuple long time ago, but not really.
Yeah.
So,
So you're on the
in
market.
I don't know. Okay, so if you can think of somebody for me, yeah, sure. I'm good with friends. I'm like a good, or at least, I've been able to
Yeah.
maneuver that, negotiate, and be successful.
Sure,
Whatever
sure.
success. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like because I know people from decades and decades,
Yeah.
and they're still my friends and also colleagues.
Yeah, I see. Thank you for humoring me. I know that's a big, grand, maybe too big of a question. I'd
Yeah.
ask.
Oh my God. That's like, oh my God. I feel like in that department, I've had, I could be better. It could be better.
Tell me this. When you were coming up, and I mean even now, like what was your goal? I ask that because like a lot of like young actors, they want to get on TV, they want to get on Broadway, but I feel like that like wasn't like your be all end all.
Well, you know what it was? I grew up in the 80s. In the 80s, lesbians weren't really represented anywhere. I mean, we didn't think we would have any. It was a very different time. And so we didn't think, what, you being on TV is it's not going to happen. So it was such a different time. Are you going to make money from it? No. But the good thing was that life was cheap enough that you could make work and you could keep on going, but it wasn't what kids now growing up are like, "Okay, I wanna do this." Yeah, I would have loved to have been at a certain point, I thought, "Oh, it'd be great to be on TV and all that." That'd be great. All of that would be great. Has Broadway been my thing? Not really. I mean, but I go to it. I think there are good things on Broadway. I favor more off Broadway because you can take more chances and it doesn't have to be a certain, thing. And again, performance art is a very different thing too. It functions more in terms of spaces like museums or galleries or,
I mean, it's funny that like the hit show of Broadway right now is Oh Mary,
oh, that's
which
great.
in
Yeah.
10 years ago that would have
Yeah.
been downtown only. It never would
Yeah.
have moved.
Exactly. Yeah.
I do think though we talk about how gay Broadway is, but I mean, if you look at the numbers, like lesbians are woefully underrepresented.
Always.
It's
Yeah.
gay
But
men only.
always. But that's always the
Yeah.
case, unfortunately. I mean, we did have Lisa Crone doing Fun Home, and thank God.
Well,
You
so
know.
that was 2015
I
Fun
know.
Home, and that was the first
Yes.
lesbian main character protagonist in a musical on Broadway.
Exactly.
2015. So that's insane.
Exactly. Yeah. I agree with you.
So that was just aware and apparent in the 80s, and you just said, I need to like make my own way then instead.
I think that all of us at WOW sort of thought, "Ugh, nothing's going to happen." And it was really a great launching pad. It was a great education. Like Lisa Crone came from WOW. The Lesbian Brothers, they came from WOW. But the Lesbian Brothers couldn't really, if touring and all that, and their work was edgy. And
Yeah.
if it was so edgy, it was less, you wouldn't have it as produced. So it's those things where you have to say, well, how do you sustain a career? Well, how do you and what are you working for? So and you find different ways and different, people to work with. And sometimes people leave, the city and sometimes people decide not to do that, have kids or, move out of so there are many different answers that we have to our, in terms of living and how the work is going to be part of that.
Last question. I'm staring at you across this room. You've got your neon hair, but also what's drawing my attention is your necklace. Does that say fierce pussy?
Yes. Wow, you really can read. Oh my God, you are young. Jeffrey, you are totally young. That how I can tell who's young, who's not, because they can't see it. And you should see all the people. I go, but this used to be a group. One of the people that, set up this, very radical group was Zoe Leonard, who's an amazing visual artist.
Oh, she did the famous poem, I Want a Dyke for President.
Yes. And so we went to Participant, an amazing gallery, and she was there, and The other members of Fierce Pussy, I'm so sorry I don't remember their names. Please forgive me, because I know Zoe, more. And they had this, and my sister said, "Buy it, buy it." And I go, "Okay, okay, okay." And said, "Well, we're only taking cash, so we had to go Chinatown, get the cash." Went there, and it's my, you have certain things that you really value in life,
Yeah.
and it's not that they're so, extraordinary, but it's just it hits the spot, and Fierce Pussy hits my spot.
That's a great place to end it. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Jeffrey, so, so much.
And that is Alina Troyano, aka Carmelita Tropicana. If you enjoyed this interview, and I hope you did, please make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast. And if you really loved it, please post about it and share it with your friends. Seriously, pull out your phone right now while I'm talking. I hear all the time from people that they discover our show through personal recommendation. That's the #1 way. So thank you so much to everyone who has been doing that. It really does make a huge difference. We also have a Substack newsletter that you can join. I just posted some behind-the-scenes photos of Carmelita from our interview there this morning. So if you want to check those out, there is a link to our Substack in our show notes. All right, I'm Jeffrey Masters. I hope you've had a great Pride. Thanks for listening.